All right, guys, good afternoon. I hope I'm yes,
Recording in progress.
it's live, right? Hello. Yes, good afternoon, guys. So, welcome to Legacy IS Academy. So, in this lecture, as we are doing it as a practice for each and every subject, that is the value addition. Specifically, these lectures are very important for the repeaters batch, is what we call, right? Wherein you might have failed to clear the prelims because of the pattern or the type of paper that was there in UPSC prelims. Now we will ensure that we leave no stone unturned in order to ensure that you clear prelims. Not just that, when you're writing your mains, there will be certain value addition things with you which will help you to sail through your mains as well. So in this specific lecture, with respect to our value addition, with respect to economy, we will be looking at certain value added points for your mains. Now mains, the GS papers of mains have been recently concluded, right? So let us focus on mains when it comes to economy, and let us see what are the value added things that we will look at over here. Now these are going to be those things which are the low hanging fruits which are asked prevalently by UPSC. At the same time, they are not explicitly explained to the aspirants in the usual class that you might be going to, or the standard books that you might be referring to. So let's get started with the very first thing that we will look at over here is the concept of inclusive growth. Is the concept of inclusive growth. Now why is this important? This is important because either directly or indirectly UPSC is asking inclusive growth literally in every single year. Inclusive growth was present in 2024, a direct question in 2025 as well. In 2026, one of the aspects of inclusive growth was asked, which was financial inclusion. Now that is also a part of inclusive growth as well. So you can see for 3 years continuously, inclusive growth either directly or indirectly has been asked. So let us first understand as to what is inclusive growth. See, we are going to talk about value addition more. So the definitions and the basic concept, I will swift through them. Right, inclusive growth, as you know, OECD has defined it. OECD has defined inclusive growth as basically that growth which distributes fairly. What does it distribute? It distributes fairly what? The dividends of growth. So when the dividends of growth gets distributed, it gets distributed fairly, then only the growth is said to be an inclusive growth. Now one very important aspect you should keep in mind with respect to inclusive growth is, whenever you are writing answers with respect to inclusive growth, try to include the most vulnerable sections of the society. Don't write your answers in a generic manner, but rather try to include generic, very specific vulnerable sections into the answer. For example, here you will have the women, you would have transgenders, you would have the socio-economically backward sections of the society, you might have the elderly, you may have the differently abled people. So all these people are very important when it comes to the inclusive growth. Also very important for you to use in answers are either the government schemes, or not just that, the data with respect to the government, the steps that the government has taken, also the motto or the vision or the slogan that the government might have brought in. These things are going to help you in concluding your answer. So with respect to inclusive growth, what do we have? We have the slogan that is sabka saath sabka vikas, is what we are going to talk about. Sabka saath sabka vikas. Now this is nothing but inclusive growth, right? So this is a brief overview with respect to inclusive growth, but the question is, what does inclusive growth consist of? That is very important. Or what are the elements, is what we will see when it comes to inclusive growth. So very first element is inclusion inclusion with respect to income. So people should be included with respect to income, right? Income as in people should be able to earn enough to meet their basic needs. Next, income would be possible if there is employment. Either you are employed, let's say, in a service, in a job, or you are self-employed as well. Then comes the financial inclusion. You should also be financially included. Now, what is financial inclusion? See, you might be having some income, some employment, but you might not be having a bank account. Now, if you don't have a bank account, you might not be financially included. Now, why is that the case? For any government scheme, it is important for you to have the bank account to receive the benefits that are there, right, from the government. As a DBT, you can get insurance, you can take loan, the credit, the government scheme, interest subvention scheme, anything and everything now is becoming digital and is directly getting transferred to your bank account. That is why financial inclusion. Next is the digital inclusion. Now you might have the bank account, but at the same time you may not be able to access it because there is no bank branch, there is no ATM in the surrounding area, nearby area, in let's say 2, 3 or 5 kilometers of radius. As a result of which, what's the use of having a bank account? That is why digital inclusion, wherein you should be having access to the internet, to the smartphone, mobile, so on and so forth. That is going to be the jam trinity, that is Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile. Then you talk about spatial inclusion. Spatial inclusion means geographical divide should not be there. Different geography, the people from different geography should also be included. Then you have gender inclusion. There should not be any divide or disparity between males, females, or amongst males, females, and transgender. That is the idea of gender inclusion. Then you have social inclusion. You should not be socially excluded from the economy just based on your caste, based on your religion, or any ascribed status that you may have from birth. And then you have the human capital inclusion. Now, what is human capital? When in population you add skill, education, and good health, you get converted into human capital. Now, when all these things are included, that is when you can say inclusion in the true sense has taken place in the economy. Now, generally the inclusion word directly is used, but this year we have seen financial inclusion has been talked about. In the coming years, the UPSC can ask you about specifically about income or employment inclusion, digital, spatial, gender, social, or human capital inclusion, which is not there in your standard book. But you should know that for inclusion or for inclusive growth, all these things are needed. All these things are needed. So this is the idea of inclusive growth. Okay. Now, what are the examples or the efforts that the government is taking to help us achieve inclusive growth? First, the government has come up with Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Jan Dhan Yojana, wherein, see, you have to read about this. I'm just telling you what all things will be included. Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, in which no balance bank account, no frills bank accounts have been opened. Then you have the linkage of it via the Aadhaar card and connecting it with your mobile number. So Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile, this is nothing but your jam trinity. So a direct question on jam trinity previously has been asked. It can again be asked because over a decade has passed over here. Then the government has the concept of promoting SHGs, that is self-help group. So this helps in financial inclusion. Self-help groups will help in creating income, will help in getting you employment, because self-help groups give you small amount of credit to start your own businesses, so on and so forth. Then you have the unified payment interface using the Bhim app. Even you have the star 99, sorry, you have the star 99 hash service. Star 99 hash service. Now, what does it do? It, see, first, UPI allows you to transact without knowing the bank account number or IFSC, Indian Financial System Code. You can receive the money, transfer the money. The Bhim app uses UPI to do so. You can do it via smartphone without the use of bank account, need of bank account or IFSC. But if you don't have smartphone, then you can use the star 99 hash service. This is going to provide you what? This is going to provide you digital inclusion. This is going to provide you financial inclusion as well. And since it is online, spatial inclusion can also be provided over here, right? Now self-help groups are dominated, there are female dominated self-help groups, so gender inclusion is also happening, and from lower sections of the society is also included, so that is social capital as well. Now at the same time, you have, for human capital, you have the Skill India mission, and you have the apprenticeship yojana. All these things lead to, apprenticeship yojana will lead to what? It is going to lead to inclusion with respect to financial inclusion or human capital inclusion. So this is what you should know. Even if the question is generic, you can add these aspects. If the question is specific on any aspect, you can add these government schemes, government approach, or the steps that the government of India has taken. I hope that's clear. This is, mark my words, the most favorite topic of UPSC mains. So this year they have asked, next year also it's almost certain to be asked. Next is the second concept we will take up is the concept of food processing. Food processing in India. Food processing in India. Now I am going to link it with a lot of things over here. Let us see how can we link it. Now, why food processing in India is so important? Let us see that. So, if you talk about the food processing, first of all, what's the need? What is basically the need of food processing? See, first of all, India is now having surplus of a lot of food. Lot of food grains. India is the biggest producer of rice, then other food is also there. Even you talk about perishable, or you talk about the highly perishable items as well. So you have food grains, you have wheat, you have rice, you have milk, you have other production also that is taking place, but we are not processing the food, as a result of which we have a surplus, but we have low export value. We have low export value, right? Why export value is low? We are producing, let's say, 1 kg of mango. We are exporting that 1 kg of mango. So what happens? We earn just 100 rupees. Instead of exporting 1 kg of mango, what we could have done is processed it into something else, and that 1 kg of mango would have been worth thousands of rupees. So that is a possibility. Next, very important, this is what a value addition point looks like. India is a net exporter of water. India is a net exporter of water. Okay. Now, net exporter of water means that India is basically exporting more water than it is importing. When we are exporting certain things, what happens is water is used to produce them. Now, when water used to produce them is very high and we export them, it is as good as we are exporting the water. When we import things, there is some water required to produce them. When water required to produce them is very less and we import those kind of things, then we are importing very less amount of water. So according to economic survey, India is the net exporter of water. That is the idea. Now, as a result of which growth is less. Growth is less because low export value, because directly raw materials is what we are exporting, so the value is low. On the other hand, what we do is we import high value things, so our import bill is higher and we are going to have a balance of payment deficit. That is what we are going to have. That is why there is a need. Also, very important that there are losses that are present in our agricultural produce. This is why there is a need of it. If we are able to basically process more and more food, what will be the impact? Let us look at the impact. The impact would be, since there was a wastage, so lowering of wastage will happen. Lowering of wastage, right? Not just that, growth will increase. Just the opposite, exports will increase, right? Not just that, employment will increase. Not just that, farmers' income can increase. and we will be earning more and more foreign exchange also. That is also what is going to happen in this case. Now here UPSC can link food processing and say that food processing is important for India to have export surplus, or for its growth journey, or for lowering the wastage, or in relation to employment, in relation to doubling farmers income. Either they can ask you in relation to this, or they can ask you these topics separately, in which food processing would then become an important element of this. Okay, I hope that's clear. Let's move on to the next thing, that is farm subsidies. Third thing is about the farm subsidies. Now, what are the farm subsidies? See, any support incentive that the government gives to the farmers is the farm subsidies. Now, farm subsidies can be direct farm subsidies, or they can be indirect farm subsidies as well. Now, with respect to direct are those wherein the money directly is transferred, given in your hand, or is transferred to your account. Indirect one is the subsidy that is in kind. Money is not given to you, but in kind money is transferred to you. Now, direct benefit transfer or direct subsidy is, you have the Raitu Bandhu scheme. Raitu Bandhu scheme of Andhra Pradesh, which was there, the Kalia scheme of Odisha. In the same manner, the cash transfer the government of India is doing to the farmers per hectare. In kind, for example, you are being given free electricity, free water, etc. Right? Now, in indirect also there can be schemes to produce the crops. So, for example, cheap seeds, cheap fertilizers, right? Also, for certain post harvest activities also the government can provide you certain subsidies. So these are the direct and the indirect subsidies. Now, what is the issue with the subsidies? See, a lot of agricultural produce is also exported to the rest of the world. Now, the issue is, if the government of India provides too much of subsidy, what is going to happen is the production cost is going to come down, because your fertilizer is cheap, electricity is cheap or free, water is cheap or free, fertilizer is subsidized, seeds are subsidized, post harvest facilities are also provided by the government. So your production cost is going to go down. When production cost is going to go down, you are going to export the same thing in a cheaper manner at a cheaper rate to the rest of the world. When you will do that, that will create a problem. What problem? Other countries will say that you are dumping the goods in their country. Now, is there any provision to address this? Yes, there is the World Trade Organization, which has certain prohibitions with respect to the subsidies. It divides the subsidies into three. One is the let's start with the green box. The very first one is the green box subsidies. The next one is the blue box subsidies, and then you have the amber box subsidies. Now, what are these subsidies? These three subsidies are there under the WTO's AOA, that is Agreement on Agriculture. Agreement on Agriculture. Now, what are these subsidies? Green subsidies are not trade distorting, or you can say they do not distort the trade. They do not distort the trade. Right? Blue subsidies, blue box subsidies are trade distorting subsidies, but they are linked to production quantity, as a result of which the amount of destruction would be limited. These are trade amber box subsidies, are also trade distorting subsidies, and those subsidies that are not limited with the amount of production that happens, as a result of which the quantity of trade distortion is very high. How can it distort the trade? When you are providing huge amount of subsidies in your country, as a result of which the goods become cheaper, when you dump it into other countries, that country's goods or the market is destroyed, because they all of a sudden have very cheap goods because of the subsidies that are provided. Now, this particular classification is present on Agreement on Agriculture, but the issue with Agreement on Agriculture is that it is not yet in force. Why is that the case? See, India provides a lot of subsidies and USA says our subsidy should be classified as an amber box subsidy and it distorts trade. India argues that we provide subsidy because our farmers are poor, they need support, plus our people are poor, so they also need cheap food grains, as a result of which we are providing the subsidy over here and not to distort the trade. Now, since an understanding cannot be achieved in agreement on agriculture, WTO has so far said that let us have a peace clause. Peace clause means till the time we decide upon this issue, let us proceed as things are, and that is why India is still allowed to give the subsidies which it is providing to its farmers, to its consumers, and to its people as well. Please. So, a quick recap of what we have done so far. Yes. See, three things have been covered so far with respect to the mains perspective. First, the very important thing, I'll just reiterate, very important thing is the inclusive growth. So this is, we are doing from the perspective of mains. Inclusive growth, this is the most important perspective when it comes to mains for UPSC. Okay. In the last 3 years, direct questions have been asked. In 2024, direct inclusive growth based question has been asked. In 25, UPSC has asked again on inclusive growth. In 26, that is this year, inclusive growth directly has not been asked, but financial inclusion, which is an aspect of inclusive growth, has been asked. Right. So the idea is, first of all, what is inclusive growth? So we have the definition given by OECD as to what is inclusive growth. Inclusive growth is that growth which ensures that the dividends of the growth are fairly distributed amongst the different sections of the society. Important word is the word fairly distributed, not evenly, not unevenly, fairly. Whoever commands fair share, they should get their fair share. That is the idea of inclusive growth. In your answers on inclusive growth, whenever you are writing answers, focus on the vulnerable sections of the society. Don't write it in a generic manner, be very specific. For example, women, transgender, socio-economically backward sections of the society, differently elderly people, differently able people, these are the people that you should be focusing on. Whenever you are writing answers, very important is to link it with the government schemes or the steps that the government has taken, and you can conclude by using the motto, vision, or the slogan that the government has come up with. So this you can take down. Okay, you have to include, you have to write on the heading inclusive growth, and then in that we have the definition given by OECD, of course. In that, just write down that focus should be on the vulnerable sections of the society, that is women, transgenders, socio-economic people, socio-economically backward sections of the society, elderly people, the differently abled people, so on and so forth. And for online students as well, in your answers, guys, please ensure that, yes, good afternoon. In your answers, please ensure that you are utilizing the government schemes, the steps taken by the government. You should know motto, vision, slogan of the government can be used for you to conclude your answer. Very, very important. This will be used for your conclusion. The government schemes and the steps taken can be used by you as solution. As a solution. So this is about the inclusive growth. Now, for example, I have given one slogan, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. For example, now, very important are the elements of inclusive growth. So what are the elements of inclusive growth? Inclusive growth is a very comprehensive term wherein we say that the growth should be fairly distributed among all. Everyone should experience the growth. But how will they experience the growth? So these are the elements. The very first element of inclusive growth is income inclusiveness. They should have, everyone should earn some amount of income. How will they earn? Employment inclusiveness. Every person should have some or the other job. Either they are employed by someone or they are self-employed. Third aspect comes the financial inclusion. They should be financially included. That means they should have bare minimum a bank account. But having a bank account alone does not give inclusion, because you may have the bank account, it is not accessible, you don't have money. So you can see everything goes hand in hand. I open a bank account but I don't have employment or income, it is useless. That's one thing. Second, I open a bank account but there is no bank or bank branch or ATM nearby in the 4-5 kilometer radius, so I again cannot use it. That's when comes your digital inclusion should also be there. Digital inclusion helps us to ensure that we can access the account, the bank account, and the various services provided by financial institutions. Then there is something known as spatial inclusion. Spatial inclusion means, see, we see in India there is uneven development. Some regions are quite affluent, some regions are backward. Within the state also you will see differences, urban rural divides. So all that need not be there. If urban area is getting digital connectivity, internet, the same thing needs to be there in the rural area as well. In one state if it is there, it should be there in the other state as well. If in one state, in one city, one rural area is there, it should be there elsewhere as well. Then there needs to be gender inclusion, again the gender based divide. Social inclusion, the division based on caste, socio-economic backwardness should not be there. Human capital inclusiveness, that means everyone should be capable of doing a job. This job will happen, this business will happen when you are capable. When will you be capable? You will be capable when you are educated, skilled, and of good health. Right now, so UPSC can either directly ask you inclusive growth. So these are the elements, the important of them, you can use it in your answer. Or UPSC can ask you specific question wherein they talk about income inclusiveness, employment inclusiveness, financial inclusiveness, digital inclusiveness. So you should be able to answer them as well. This is what it is. Now, whenever you're writing answer, you have to link it with what the government of India is doing with respect to that. So the very first thing is Jan Dhan Yojana, wherein you are being given no frill accounts or zero balance accounts, no frill accounts, no balance is needed. Now that is linked to your Aadhaar and your mobile number. This together is known as the JAM Trinity. The JAM Trinity, that is the Jan Dhan Aadhaar and mobile Trinity, that is the JAM Trinity. Okay. Now this JAM Trinity, this completely takes care of what? It takes care of your financial inclusion, right? Then you have the self-help groups. What are these self-help groups? These self-help groups are predominantly that of females, and they are predominantly in the rural areas. So they will, and what do? They collect money, pool in money, and they give it to the people to do the business. So this is going to take care of provision of income, because using that money you can start your business, so it can help you set your employment. It will also help in gender inclusivity, because huge 33% plus SHGs are basically run by the females over here. So very important point. Then you have UPI, Bheem app, *99#, all these services. This helps us to cover the digital divide. This helps us to cover the spatial divide. No matter where you are, whether you have physical bank or not, you can use this to get access. So this will also help us in financial inclusion. UPI, we all know, unified payment interface, using which you can transfer or receive the money without the need of having a bank account number or Indian financial system code. Bheem app is the app you can use to implement the UPI transactions. There are GPay, PhonePe as well. This is our Indian or indigenous app which is there. And then you have the *99# service, because everyone is not going to have the smartphone internet connection. As a result of which, the *99# service can help you transact or do financial transaction without the use of a smartphone or internet, just with the help of the feature phones itself, right? So this is very important. Then comes to the human capital. Education, skill development can happen through Skill India missions, through apprenticeship yojana. So these are the things that we will be using in our answers to write them. Is it clear? Now, since the last 3 years, every year question is been coming, you can easily expect the question to be asked on inclusive growth next year as well. Next is the food processing in India. Now first, what is the need of food processing in India? First thing is, what is the need? First of all, we have a good amount of surplus in our agriculture. Our export value is low. Why export value is low? Whatever we are producing, we are directly exporting. We are not adding any value into it. So 100 rupees per kg mangoes are there, we exported, we receive only 100 rupees. Instead of that, if we could have converted the mangoes into certain other things, let's say mango chocolates, mango bars, mango, let's say mango squash, mango drinks, energy drink, or anything else, the value will shoot up. So the need is, why is there a need? Because our export value is low. Then our growth is also low in the agricultural sector. Then there are huge amount of losses, especially the losses in the perishable sector, in the perishable crops, perishable, horticultural, food, foods or flowers, etc. The losses are up to 20%. Up to 20% are being lost. Now, if we would have processing units, then those processing units could actually utilize it. Those processing units could actually utilize it. A simple example, you have roses. Now roses, there are waste, petals are waste, you can utilize it to convert it into rose water. So that is the idea. The losses are also there. Because of all this, we need the food processing industry. If we have it, what is going to be the impact? The wastage will be lower. In fact, whatever is the wastage can be utilized as well. When you are processing the goods, it will lead to increase in the growth. When there is growth, when production is high, you are producing more, it will lead to increase in exports. Right? When more value is getting added, when you need more people to process, convert certain things into finished goods, you will increase employment. When the value of a commodity is increased, the farmers will also earn more, because now the mangoes are not directly going to be sold off, but it is going to go to add value, as a result of which the farmers can also get a bigger amount, because the pie itself will increase. Now to implement this, the government has come up with the concept of mega food parks. Mega food parks. So this diagram is important, which we can draw, but understand first mega food parks. Now what is this mega food parks? So this mega food parks works on the principle of hub and spoke model. It works on the hub and spoke model. What is this hub and spoke model? In the tire, you will see this is the tire. This here is the hub. This here is actually the hub, and the other things that are connected. This is the hub and this is the spoke. So this is the hub and spoke model. Don't draw this. We will draw this. This will give a better idea. So what we have is, we will have individual farmers. Individual farmers. Right? Individual farmers everywhere. Individual farmers. Now, individual farmers alone selling is a very difficult thing. So you can have farmers consortium. Farmers consortium means an aggregate of the farmers coming together to form a farmers organization. So what happens is, this farmers consortium gets formed. Here also the farmers consortium is going to get formed. Right? All the farmers will unite, form a farmers consortium. Now this farmers consortium will collect all the produce and will give it to the collection center. That collection center will collect farm produce from various farmer consortium. Right? So collection center will collect from various farmer consortium. Here also farmer consortium will be there. They will collect from the farmers consortium that is there. So here, from there, they will collect it over here. So these are collection centers. Now these collection centers, there will be multiple collection centers, and this multiple collection centers will basically be catering to something known as the primary processing centers. Primary processing centers. So like this, there will be various collection centers which will provide the food or the material to the primary processing centers, and from the various primary processing centers it will reach to the mega food parks. Okay, this is how it will happen. This was just to explain. I'll give you an easy diagram to understand that. First what happens is, individual farmers are there. Individual farmers will come together and form a farmers consortium. A group of farmers. These group of farmers will offload the produce to the collection center. To the collection centers. Multiple collection centers will take the output to the primary processing centers. From primary processing centers, multiple primary processing centers will take their produce to the mega food park, wherein it will be produced and then it will be used, sold or exported. Is that clear? So this is how it will look like. There will be lakhs of farmers, thousands of farmers consortium, hundreds of collection centers, tens of primary centers catering to mega food park. This is basically the mega food park scheme. Yes, online students, Manjunath. Yes, guys, any doubts you have? You understood the concept of the mega food park scheme. This is generally not covered in the books. The scheme is around over 10 years ago. The government brought in the mega food park scheme over 10 years back. So this is about the food processing, why it's important. Next, we were discussing about the farm subsidies. Now, farm subsidies is nothing but the support that the government provides to its farmers. Now, the subsidies can be direct subsidies or indirect subsidies. What is a direct subsidy? Direct subsidy is that subsidy in which the money is directly given in your hand, either in your hand in the form of cash or in your account through direct benefit transfer. Example is the Kalia scheme, the Raitu Bandhu scheme of Andhra Pradesh, wherein 6,000 rupees per hectare is given to the farmer to produce agricultural output. That is the direct subsidy. Next is the indirect subsidy, wherein money is not given, but indirectly you are supported. For example, you will be given free electricity, free water, cheap seeds, cheap fertilizers, post-harvest benefits. All these things would be provided under the indirect subsidies. Also, it can include also Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, in which the farmer is the government pays some amount of insurance premium for the farmers, so that the farmers will have to pay less. Did the government give the money directly in the hands? No, they simply paid the insurance premium. That's why this is an indirect subsidy. Now, what's the issue of the subsidy? See, what can happen is, when huge amount of subsidy is given, in that case, the other countries can object. Imagine when the government of India, let's say, gives too much amount of subsidies, so the production cost will go down. Seed is subsidized, fertilizer subsidized, electricity free, water is free. So the production of 1 kg of rice or any commodity will be less per unit. As a result of which huge amount of production can take place, and that produce can be exported to the other countries. When that produce gets exported to the other countries, what will happen is, when it is coming from India, it will come at a cheap price. When it comes at a cheap price, this country here, which is receiving our produce, will have a problem. Why? Because this country's farmers are also producing, so this country's people are going to prefer Indian goods over their own country's goods. So this country's industry, this country's agriculture, this country's farmers would take a hit, and we will get the export money. As a result of which, to avoid all this from happening, there is an organization known as the WTO, World Trade Organization. What it has done is, it has classified the subsidies into 3 types. One is the green box subsidy, the second is the blue box subsidy, and the third is the amber box subsidy. The green box, the blue box, and the amber box. Now, what is the green box subsidy? Green box subsidy is that subsidy that does not distort the trade. It does not distort the trade means, now why will it not distort the trade? Any kind of subsidy should distort the trade, then why does it not distort? Simple reason being, this subsidy, the WTO says, the green box subsidy is that subsidy which is provided to the farmers to compensate for the backwardness in the agricultural environment of that country. So, for example, in India, the agricultural environment is not that good because technological backwardness is there, research and development is not high, GM crops are not used. So, our farmers are at a disadvantaged position. right? So let's say our farmer starting point is this, but USA's farmers are technologically advanced, they are having more machinery, equipment, everything, so they are at a higher level. So if you are providing subsidy to move your farmers from a lower level to a higher level, it is not going to distort the trade. This is only going to compensate for the difference that is there. That is the idea. Simple to understand. There is one student who has just joined the class, one student who was already there since 2 months. So I might be required to give some extra classes to this new student. This is not an additional thing. This is simply to compensate the losses of the previous class. That's all. So because you are compensating for the backwardness of agricultural scenario, WTO says such subsidy will not distort the trade. It will simply bring everyone at the same footing, right? But there are two other subsidies which will distort the trade. If in addition to this you give any other kind of subsidy, then that will to definitely distort the trade, right? So we have two subsidies, one is blue box and one is amber box. Both are trade distorting subsidies, but this subsidy is less trade distorting. Reason being, these subsidies are linked to production. Linked to production means there will be a ceiling of how much subsidy can be provided. For example, subsidy worth 10,000 rupees per hectare, but up to a highest limit of 50,000 rupees. Beyond that, if you produce more, I am not going to give you any more subsidy. So since they are capped, these subsidies are capped, that is why they distort the trade, but they distort the trade quite less. Whereas amber box subsidies are those subsidies which distort the trade, plus they have no limit. When they have no limit, they can distort the trade as much as they want to. Okay, that is the idea. Okay. So now what the WTO has done, WTO has said that there is no limit on green box subsidy, however much is required, fair enough, but there needs to be cap that you have to put. But in amber box subsidies, since there is no limit, this is a problem. So USA argued that India is giving huge amount of subsidies as amber box subsidies, so it should stop giving it. There's the limit. Amber box subsidies can be given only up to 10% of the total production. So if India is producing 100 rupees worth of agricultural produce, only 10 rupees can be given as amber box subsidy. USA has argued that India exceeds this 10% limit. Okay. India is arguing that I am not giving it for distorting the trade. I am giving it because my farmer is poor, my people are poor, they also need cheap food grains, and I need to support my farmers as well. Did our contribution exceed 10%? Yes, it did. But the argument is we still need to give more and more to the farmers because they are really more disadvantaged. So what is the solution then? WTO came up with agreement on agriculture over a decade and a half ago, wherein we are going to decide how much should be this, how much should be this, how much should be this. But there is no such decision on this. WTO has said that you have to lower it up to 10%, but this is not yet in force. Why not in force? Because India did not agree. Countries which are like India, Brazil, etc. have not agreed to this, but the Western developed world wants to enforce this. Because there is no agreement, for any agreement to come into force in WTO, 85% voting is required. Right? Now, because 85% voting is required, it is at a standstill, as a result of which WTO has said we will have a peace clause in place. What is peace clause? Till the time any agreement is or decision is taken on agreement on agriculture, we will proceed as we are proceeding. Is that clear? So that is the peace clause, and this year they have asked about the peace clause as well. A bit history about the WTO. So previously it was the International Trade Organization. It was called as ITO, immediately after which its name changed to GATT, that is General Agreement on tariffs and trade. GATT, General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade. ठीक है. Now this is GATT. Now this continued till 1990s, but on 1st of January, 1995, this was replaced by WTO, simply because this was inefficient, inadequate. It did not include a lot of things. For example, it did not include the intellectual property rights, right? So WTO also consists of intellectual property rights as well. In addition to the other things, this has come into force in 1995. It has been around 31 years. Its ministerial conferences takes place once in every 2 years is what they meet. Once in every 2 years is what they meet. It works on certain principles. It works on the principle of number one, MFN, that is most favored nation principle. Most favored nation principle means if a country X, it lowers the tariff for country Y. If a country X lowers the tariff for country Y, it is assumed that it has lowered the tariff for everyone else as well. You cannot differentiate. If you lower the tariff for one, you have to lower it for everyone else. There are exceptions. What are that exceptions? The exception is if you are in a regional comprehensive economic partnership with few countries, you can lower it. If you are in bilateral agreement with a country, you can do that. And remember, it is regional comprehensive economic partnership, regional partnership. If you have a regional partnership, it can have multiple countries, but it is a regional partnership. That means India can have that partnership with countries like Bangladesh, Myanmar, because it's of the same region. We cannot have this partnership with Brazil because we are not in the same region. Okay? So this is one. Second is the concept of national treatment. Now what is this? Yes, yes, absolutely. Because SARC is from the same region. Yes. Various other regions. You have Russia, China. You have basically now more countries have. UAE has also been added over here. South Africa is also there from African continent. So they are not from the same region. So that's correct. It will not apply to BRICS country, right? Next is national treatment. Now, what is this national treatment? See, whenever goods are coming into the country, we are applying tariffs over here. But once it enters the country, you have to treat it as good as your domestic goods. You cannot differentiate. That is the concept of national treatment. And third is differential treatment. What is this differential treatment? Differential treatment between developed countries and developing countries. If a country is a developed country, you are going to impose stricter regulations and ask them to implement within a shorter period of time. So stricter regulation to be implemented within shorter period of time. Within shorter period of time. Here there will be more lenient laws to be implemented over a longer period of time. To be implemented over a longer period of time. These are the three principles on which it functions. I hope that's clear. All right, so now we are also going to go live. I have another class on mains which happened yesterday, so let us have a discussion on that as well. Okay, for online students, I'm going to wrap this class over here and we move on to the GS3 Indian economy paper discussion. So stay tuned to the channel. We'll be back in another 5 minutes. Thank you. Please give us 5 minutes, okay? Did you have a look at the paper? How was it?